surrendering is more about just focusing on making myself happy. Like, how am I going to be responsible to delight Laura today, do all the things that make me smile and laugh and dance and sing? And then that in turn really improves the intimacy, because that's who my husband fell in love with, was that girl of fun and light that was having a great time, regardless of some of the circumstances that could come up. I think people hear it and they think that it means subservient, like he's the boss. And I just didn't like that word either at first. But now I love it, because whenever I'm tempted, whenever I feel the fear come up that is behind my urge to control, it's just my mantra. I'll just say, like, surrender, surrender, surrender.
2, 1, 0.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion, and today I have with me the magnificent Laura Doyle. I heard a conversation with her and I was, and I thought to myself, OMG, I have to get her on the show. And she said yes, and she is here to teach you how to have a better relationship, because you know what? Laura Doyle was the perfect wife until she actually got married. When she tried to tell her husband how to be more romantic, more ambitious, and tidier, he avoided her. Laura dragged him to marriage counseling and nearly divorced him. But then she started talking to women who had exactly what she wanted in marriage, women who had really good relationships. And she learned from them and she implemented those things and she got a miracle. There was a complete shift in her relationship with the man she loves. And now she's teaching that. She's got a beautiful podcast called The Empowered Wife. And she wrote a few books, including The Surrendered Wives and The Empowered Wife. Laura is such a gem. And if you want to learn how to increase the passion and connection in your own relationship, she is it. She is where you go to learn how to really, really empower your relationship, because she really understands intimacy and she understands what surrender means. I mean, I used to be allergic to the word surrender until I learned that surrender is something completely different, because surrendering means surrendering to your higher power. So Laura talked about how to not be controlling of your partner. She talked about how to have better intimacy and how when you change, the world around you change. And she's got so many stories of people that completely shifted their marriage and their lives because they know how to be better in relationship and how to empower themselves in relationship. And the focus is, as always, about you, because you create the change you want to see in the world. We cannot change anybody else. Unfortunately, I wish we could. My whole life I was trying to change everybody, including my husband. But you know what? We're all whole and perfect and complete exactly the way we are. I love my husband. He's wonderful. Um, are there some things that I would like him to improve on? Yeah. Are there some things he would like me to improve on? For sure. But you know what? Love always wins. And if you fight for your relationship and you know that you both are, you both want to be better and you both love each other, then you do whatever you can to save it. Because honestly, it's really not easy to find a man that is like compatible, or a partner that is compatible. And when you find someone that you love, you do love. You don't just like expect love to happen and go away, just like you don't expect your teeth to be clean when you wake up in the morning or at night. You clean it every day, you work on it every day. It doesn't have to be hard work. Sometimes just the little things and the change in perception can really help your relationship. So, are you ready? Are you ready for Laura Doyle? Here she comes. Without further ado, on to the show.
Hey, Laura, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. It is a pleasure and an honor having you here.
Thank you, Orion. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Before we begin, can you share with me one of your most cherished childhood memories?
Yeah, one time my father was digging a hole for a tree in our front yard, and he said, "I need you to stay away from this hole." I don't know how old I was, maybe 4. And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to stay away from this hole." And I was thinking, "Stay away from the hole, stay away from the hole, stay away from the hole." And the next thing I know, I was at the bottom of this hole, and my father was so terrified because I'd fallen in. And anyway, so he was able to pull me out, and I wasn't even injured. Everything was fine. But it's really stuck with me. It's a great example of what happens when you tell people not to do things. Sometimes you just focus so much on what you're not supposed to do that you end up doing that.
Yeah, I would probably be the same child. Like, I would do the same. I would go straight into the hole. If you tell me not to do something, I'm like, oh, well, let me not. Oops, I did it. Oops, I did it again and again and all over again.
It does say something about our character, doesn't it, Orion? We're contrary people, apparently.
Yes, and the word surrender is a very I guess triggering word for somebody who's so rebellious. And you wrote the book The Surrendered Wife. The title is very interesting, and like I said, maybe triggering for some. Maybe you can share a little bit about how did you come to write it and what is it about?
Well, yeah. So my it starts because my marriage was in a ditch. We were fighting all the time. We were having cold wars with no talking, lots of tension. And so I knew that that meant that we needed to go to marriage counseling. Everyone knows that's what you should do. So I dragged my husband to marriage counseling, and I thought, good, now the counselor can tell him all the things he's doing wrong, how he's not being romantic, because he wanted nothing to do with me. He didn't even want to spend time with me. He wasn't interested in making love with me, even. And I know all men want that. So clearly, it was his problem, and the counselor was going to fix him. I was excited about that. But we were on the counselor's great couch when I realized this is hopeless. We've been here for over a year. He's never going to change. And I'm either going to spend the rest of my life in a loveless relationship or else I have to get divorced. And I decided right then that I would just file for divorce. And the only problem was that I couldn't quite get myself to go through with it because I was embarrassed and I didn't want to lose status with my friends and family that had been to the wedding not that many years before. So I decided as a last ditch effort, I was going to ask women with happy marriages who'd been married for at least 15 years, because that seemed like a really long time. I did not know how anyone could stay married for that long. I was going to ask them for their secrets, and they really delivered. They said things that sounded really counterintuitive and old fashioned, and sometimes it just sounded crazy. But I just decided I was going to experiment with everything they said. And if it worked, I kept it. And I remember it was not even that long after that that I walked through the door. And when my husband saw me come in, his face lit up. He was happy to see me again. And that had been gone. So I thought, oh, there's something here. This is working. And I was very excited because I really wanted a good marriage so bad. I'd always wanted that. I wanted to feel loved and desired and adored and just to laugh together. And so I thought, now I can have all of that. Now we're not going to have those big fights in the car anymore. And then it was not that long after that that we had one of those big fights in the car. And, oh gosh. So I knew what to do, but it was really hard to get myself to do it. And I had the idea, I really wanted to be doing these things. The new way wasn't so hard. It was just, it was new. So I thought, I'm going to get some of my girlfriends that are complaining about their marriages too. I'm going to get them to do this with me. And then maybe that'll help these new habits stick. And so I had a little support group in my living room, and we were all talking about using these things that we learned from these wise, happy wives. And we saw miracles. Like one woman said, oh, my husband won the sales contest at work and he took them on the most romantic getaway of their lives. And another one said, well, this is not going to seem that big, but my husband and I have been fighting about him painting the family room for months. And then he just got up and he painted it, and he was happy. He was smiling, and he was proud of himself, and he loved just being my hero and painting the family room. She said, "This is a miracle." And we all agreed, like, yeah, that is, yeah, that's a miracle, right? Because we've all been in that situation where you want him to do something and he won't. So one of the women in my little support group said, "Can you write down what we're doing for my cousin who lives all the way across the country so she can do it too?" And I said, "Sure." And that became my first book, which is The Surrendered Wife. I was in my own little world. I didn't know that was going to be a topic that was going to upset so many people. And so I just named it that, because it's like, it's surrendering, meaning you're not surrendering to anyone. You're just not trying to control what your husband eats or wears, or how he drives, what he does at work. It's really more about just focusing on your own happiness, and that in turn improves the intimacy. And anyway, and then it allows him to be the man who you fell in love with, which is exactly what happened. So anyway, so I wrote that book, and it was number one on Amazon. It became a New York Times bestseller. It was published in 19 languages in 30 countries, and women from all over the world wrote and said, "I want some more support with how do you do this?" And I remember I was trying to support so many women from all over the world single-handedly. And then I got a little overwhelmed, and I just said, "Well, I need to use the restroom." And I just kind of, like, just kept going and didn't ever come back for years. I just kind of felt like I wasn't going to be able to support all these women. But anyway, finally I got the idea to train some coaches on how to do this. And now there's hundreds of coaches that help me support all the women in the world. We're on a mission to end world divorce.
Yeah, I just interviewed Yannick Silver, and he's got the concept of being the sun that lights a thousand suns, that lights a thousand suns.
That it's so beautiful, isn't it? It's amazing because it feels so purposeful and exciting to be one of those thousand lights, or to be the sun that lights a thousand lights. To all of it. But it also feels it's just terrifying. It's kind of frightening to feel the responsibility of that on you, and to wonder. I've wondered, am I enough? Am I big enough? Am I smart enough to? Can I do this? Many times, and but it also is just. It's been an incredibly gratifying adventure to be on.
So when did you know that you're enough?
I'm still wondering about that, Orion. I'm still every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, it doesn't ever seem to end. I mean, when I surrendered, when I got off of what I call my husband's paper, right, which was me trying to tell him how to be, and what to say to his family members, and how he should eat healthier or whatever. It was much scarier to be Laura, because then I was called to write New York Times bestselling books, right? And then I got to go on national television, international television, and I got invited to do, like, speaking in front of a live audience. I hadn't done any of that before, and it was all very scary, and it was much less scary to be the armchair critic of my husband's life and avoid those things that I was being called to do. But so then I would do each thing, and I go, "Oh, okay, I did that." And that's great, and then you get the courage, kind of like after you run through the waterfall of fear. After I would run through, I would get to the other side and be like, "Oh, okay, I did it. I was on those shows," or I wrote that book, and I've got some haters now, or whatever it
Oh,
was, or I did that speaking engagement.
yeah. How do you deal with that? Because obviously it's really polarizing, especially for young woman or not so young woman who thinks that they should be the boss, they should wear the pants, and what is she talking about? Surrendering to you, not controlling, not telling him what to be, not being his boss.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, this morning, my 4.5-year-old asked me, "Mommy, are you the boss of Daddy?" I was just like, "Oops." And I said, and I jokingly said yes. And then my husband was kind of like pissed off, and I said, "No, he's actually a contractor," which he didn't like either. But no, like honestly, like I'm really working in and it, it comes and goes in waves, because my personality is that 4-year old that when you tell her not to do something, she will try to do that. So she comes up sometimes and throw a tantrum. In an ideal world, I would be I would be better. But my husband and I have been together for a decade now, and we improved a lot. But it seems like a never-ending journey.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I have been practicing the intimacy skills for like 25 years almost, and I still will have my days when I just think, "Oh, is he gonna wear that?" Or why doesn't he why is he watching this show? Right? Or something like that. So it does seem to be, I mean, it's a lot better. It's a lot easier. The environment at my house is so wonderful now compared to how it was. Like now I'll just be, I was brushing crumbs off the counter and he goes, "Oh, oh, don't move." And he gets his phone out. And he starts taking my picture like I'm the supermodel that he's been married to for almost 35 years now, right? So it's just really sweet. I love it, but still I still feel that like maybe my factory settings were to be a little controlling. I'm my firstborn too, so I don't know if that contributes to it or whatever,
No, me
but
too. Yeah. Okay.
oh, look,
Maybe.
see, so we
Uh-huh.
have,
Yeah.
okay, we
Maybe
have this
that's
in
it.
common, Orion. So so I don't know what it, but I also feel so. I now look back at the breakdown in my marriage, and I'm believe it or not, I'm grateful because I don't think I ever would have walked through that door marked self-improvement, right? Self-awareness. I wouldn't have listened to those wise women when they told me
Mm.
those secrets. It sounded old-fashioned and crazy. Um, and I'm so happy that I did because that's been the best self-improvement program I've ever been on. My marriage has been like a mirror, like at the ballet bar, to see how am I doing? Am I showing up with dignity, with kindness? Am I being authentic? Am I do I have integrity in my words? Am I accountable? Am I humble? That
Mm.
was a big one for me because I didn't really understand why anybody would want to be humble. I thought, why would you do that? I'm so smart. I'm probably smarter than my husband, I thought. And so why should I be humble? And so
Yeah. In my house, is you see, I'm right. See, I'm right. I'm always right. I'm just most of the time, I'm always right.
exactly, I'm always right too. So yeah, and now we get to joke about things a lot more. There's a lot more playfulness. We just had a situation the other day where we were watching a comedian on TV and we were just laughing. He goes, "Oh, I married a talker. My wife's a talker." And I was laughing so hard. And then a few minutes later, we're getting ready for bed. And my husband looks at me and he goes, "I'm married a talker. My wife's a talker." And I was like, this is not so funny anymore. Like, he's talking to me. Like, it was like, ouch. And then I really had to it's just so nice to have these intimacy skills because I thought, wait, he never intends to hurt me. So if I'm feeling hurt, that means there's a misunderstanding. And so then I thought, why is he saying that? And I thought, oh, he might just be repeating the thing that made me laugh before because he knows I love to laugh. And so I wanted to say, I talked just the right amount. And why are you saying that? We're having such a nice time. Why are you ruining everything? But instead I was able to get myself to that place of like, oh, he had a good intention. He always does. And we went to bed, we kissed goodnight. It was peaceful. It was nice. No intimacy was lost. So this feels like
Nice.
having a superpower.
Well done. Well done. I'm still at the stage where I'll be like, excuse me. Why are you doing this? Da 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 da. So for somebody like me who's still in this stage, maybe you can share some intimacy skills
Oh,
with me.
yes. Glad to do that. Yes. Well, one of my favorite ones that I leaned on very heavily, like I feel like this is a good intro one. Oh gosh, there's so many I want to tell you about, but I'm just picking one, which is so I was naturally very controlling. I really was spending a lot of time thinking about what he was doing. And one of the phrases that I lean on to this day when I feel tempted to tell him what he should say at work or do at work, or whether he should, if he's driving, if he should take the freeway or not. And it's just really not my concern, is whatever you think. I'll just say, oh, whatever you think. Like, and since I had trained him to always ask my opinion, like when he was gonna start a business or get dressed, or like, big or small things. So sometimes, and my husband also was the youngest. He was the youngest boy in his family, and so we just have very different styles of speaking. I had four, or there are four kids, so I had three little minions in my family. So I learned to speak very authoritatively. They would ask questions, and I would just tell them the answer, whether I knew it or not. Right? I was just saying it's like this. And my husband, I think, learned to ask questions of his older siblings. So he'll sometimes just ask a question like, what should I tell so and so or whatever, and it's just so tempting for me to just jump in and tell him. But instead, I say, now I just lean on, oh, whatever you think, or he'll say, when should I mail the property taxes or something, and I'll be like, oh, whatever you think. And meanwhile, I'm thinking like, well, you're going to mail them? Like, why not just pay everything online or whatever, right? Like, I've got ideas, but I don't. It just doesn't. It costs too much intimacy for me to say those things. So, and one of my favorite stories about this is from a student, Kathy Murray, who her marriage was really in a bad way, and they had been sleeping in separate beds for 6 months already. And she got my book, The Surrendered Wife, and she read the whole thing while she was away for the weekend at her mom's. And then when she came back, she thought, I'm going to try experimenting with this phrase, whatever you think. And her husband came to her and said, you got to tell me what you want me to do about the cell phone. What should I do with the cell phone plan? We need to pick a plan. And she wanted to say, okay, let me see it. I'll figure it out. But she thought, no, I'm going to just try this phrase. So she said, oh, whatever you think, Doug. And he looked at her like, wait, no, I don't want to be in trouble later. So tell me what you want me to do. Like, no, you got to tell me. And she just stuck to her phrase. She said, oh, whatever you think, Doug. And then she added, I trust you. And he was just amazed. He was like, okay. And he went away and he figured out the cell phone plan. And she was worried he was going to overpay or pick a crummy plan, but he didn't. He did fine. And that night he came to her, he put his hand on her shoulder and said, you were so nice today. And tears just started running down her cheeks. And they slept in the same bed that very night.
Oh, and had great sex.
And they did. They had great sex for the first time in 6 months. And I mean, they were on the verge of divorce. She'd been going to marriage counseling every week by herself to complain about her husband for an hour a week, which never works, by the way, right? Nobody ever got happier by complaining about your spouse.
Yeah, because where you put your attention, where you put your focus into it, it just grows. So, in the beginning of our journey, we went to some couple counseling, and I always left more bitter, more angry, more like a victim, more, I don't know, it just felt yucky. I don't know. Maybe it works for some people. For me, what I found actually what helped us in our relationship was two things. Was imago dialogue. Have you heard of it? Yeah, it was really good because it's a dialogue that is structured in a way of just really listening and validating the other person. You don't have to agree with them. You just have to listen, kind of like repeat, and it makes sense to me. And I understand how you can feel because sometimes we just want to feel heard. So that helped. And also, actually studying Kabbalah together, which is a mysticism. It's not about the religion, it's about the mystic ideas and values that brought us together because we took responsibility for ourselves. So I don't think like we're not there. We have a lot to work on every day. So I listened to another podcast interview of yours where you gave that tip of saying whatever you think, and I did it a few times with him, and he really doesn't like it. He doesn't like whatever you think. um, but it frees me. I kind of like, okay, it actually feels nice. I don't have to. But it's a process that whatever you think.
Well, I mean, I think that's frustrating and annoying when you use the skills and you think, "Oh, it doesn't work with my husband," right? I find that, so, yeah, it's annoying when that happens. And, one of the things when we get to dive deeper, I'll give you an example of a time I used it, and it didn't go over well at my house either, which was my husband, I had birthday flowers, and they were starting to wilt, and my husband said to me, "What do you want me to do with these flowers? Do you want me to throw these out?" And I just sort of lazily said, "Oh, whatever you think," right? And then he got mad. He turned to me and he's like, "No, what do you want me to do? I don't know what you want me to do." And I was like, "Oh, oh." And I realized like, "Oh, that wasn't a whatever you think moment. That's not me being on his paper. That's him asking what I desire."
Oh, yeah, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and it's about more listening.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah. For me, it's just like that wasn't the time. Like he wanted to know what I wanted. And but him responding angrily kind of got me to snap too a little bit. I was like, "Oh, oh yeah. Okay, yeah, he's asking for my desires," which is that was a big problem I had early on in our marriage too. I didn't always know what I desired, or I didn't express it. I didn't know how to express it except to complain about what I didn't want. And so my husband didn't know what I wanted. So anyway, so I snapped to him and I was like, "Oh yeah, I am done with those flowers. Please take them out to the trash." He's like, "Okay, I will." And then he was happy again because he knew how to make me happy, which is a big priority of our husbands. So I don't know. I'm not saying that you didn't use it in the right context or whatever. I don't know exactly, but I just know for me.
No, I know it's a practice. I understand that. And there is always a time of like it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Like that lady, like what she added at the end was really important because she says, "And I trust you." Because if I think with my husband, if I don't say "and I trust you," he will immediately go to "that's a trap, that's a test." She's trapping me. She's testing me. If I have the wrong answer, I'm going to fail. And the last thing a man wants to do is to fail because men are meant to be hunters and they want to win. And when they feel like they're winning, they're at their best. But if he feels like he's going to fail with whatever you think, he won't like it.
And now this makes total sense, right? So I love that. And it's true that it is so interesting to me. It was something I didn't really have a grasp on early on, was how important it is that to our husbands that they want to make us happy. Like I've asked thousands of men now, I've done my own little research about this. I'll say, "How important is it to you that your wife is happy?" And they all say the same thing. They say, "It's everything," or, "Oh, that's the most important thing." And in the UK, they
Hmm.
say it's imperative. So
It's
it's
imperative.
imperative.
It's
Yeah. So I'm
imperative.
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
interesting." Wherever I
Hmm.
go, they're all giving the same answer. And I remember thinking with my husband, like, "Oh, he doesn't care about my happiness. Like that's the last thing he cares about," because we had been butting heads for so long. But when I was able to restore the respect in our relationship, which is like oxygen, right? And that had gone missing. Um, so of course that's going to interfere with his ability to be your hero if he's not getting oxygen in the relationship, right? If he doesn't feel respected. So it's just interesting how all the intimacy skills like built on each other and helped me have a way to say things, but just, I mean, being able to use the cheap phrases was great because it would kind of, and at first I just wanted to get a better response from my husband. But I think, like with your husband, I think a lot of husbands are suspicious at first. I know my husband, I remember I took some perverse pleasure from using the cheap phrases on him, and I would just see his head explode like, "Oh, what just happened? Like, who is this woman? And what has she done with my wife?" But he also, I remember asking him later, I'm like, "Were you suspicious?" And he's like, "Well," he goes, "I wondered what was going on." But he goes, "It's sort of like when you see a magic show, you just you don't want to ruin it by saying, 'Hey, how are you doing that trick?' or whatever." He's like, "I just enjoyed feeling like I could make you smile again, and feeling like you respected me again."
Nice. What are some more phrases we can use?
Okay, so one that I always I mean, I just wish I would have learned this one growing up, and it's something I feel like every woman needs to know, and that is how to express your desires in a way that inspires. And so I'll tell you a sad story about my younger self. I didn't know how to do this, which is before we were married, my husband took me on a romantic trip to Hawaii.
Nice.
And yeah, I know,
I
it
like
was
Hawaii.
so nice. Yeah, it was great. And I was really excited to go because I thought, oh, I cannot wait to go to the beach. I can't, that's what you do when you're in Hawaii, you go to the beach. And so on the first day, instead of saying, I would love to go to the beach, I said, hey, what do you want to do today? And he goes, well, we could go look at a volcano. And I was like, a volcano, like, okay. But I didn't want to have conflict. So I didn't want to
Mm,
say, well, that's not what I want to do. I wanted to go to the beach. So that I'm just going to suck it up and go see the volcano.
mm,
So we get in the car and we're driving along, and there's no volcano for a long time. There's just, you could see the molten rocks on the side of the road. And then
mhm,
all of a sudden I start thinking, like, gosh, he didn't even ask me what I want to do. And I start to like kind of get upset. And he just looks over at me. He's like, is
Are
everything
you okay?
okay? And I went, did you think this is going to be fun? Because I don't think it's fun at all. I think it's stupid. And you didn't even ask me what I want to do. I want to go to the beach. I don't want to go see a stupid volcano. So he saw a volcano, all right. It's like not the kind he had in mind, but
2 volcanoes in one day.
2 volcanoes in one day. Yeah, exactly. We never even made it to the volcano
Mhm.
because as soon as he heard what I wanted to do, he turned the car around, even though I'd behaved so badly, and we went to the beach. And I mean, I couldn't even enjoy myself because I had lost my dignity. I just had this terrible emotional hangover, and part of me knew, like, if I continue to act this way, it's repulsive. He's not gonna wanna be
Mm.
around me. And so I'm so happy I learned these words that I now use to express my desires in a way that inspires. And I want to just I want to say them, and if you can write these down, please just write them down. So let me give them to you, and then I'll give you an example. So it's I would love, and then you just say the final outcome. So I would love, and then a specific final outcome. So in the battle days, I used to say things like, this kitchen is a disaster. And I thought my husband was gonna, like, jump off the couch and then start cleaning it and stuff, but he that never happened. And then, I don't think people can hear us when we're complaining, right? So when you say what you don't want, that's the same as complaining. So finally one day I said, "I would love a clean kitchen." And my husband goes, "Okay, I'll clean it." I was like, "You will?" And he did. And he's been cleaning it ever since. This is over 20 years. I never cleaned the kitchen at my house. Why? Because it makes his wife happy, and this is what men are motivated by. They wanna be our heroes. So he is my hero, and, every day I'm all like, "Oh my gosh, this kitchen is so clean, I just love it. Thank you so much," and he's, like, so proud that he made his wife happy.
So I used that phrase too.
Oh, tell me.
It worked really well. I was like, "Oh, I would really love this clean kitchen. I love when the counters like I would love it, love it." And he did that, and it was awesome. And then the next time I said that I would love a clean kitchen, he said, "You would love it, won't you?" He kind of got me. I'm still gonna use it. I'm still gonna use
I
it. It
kinda
worked.
he was mocking you a little bit, it sounds
It
like.
was just like, "You would, wouldn't you?"
But did he clean the kitchen or not?
Yes, yes,
Oh, he still cleaned it even though he said that.
yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
so
No,
cute. Oh,
he's a good man, and
still worked.
yeah, he's a
Oh.
great guy. My husband. It's just that
Oh.
sometimes, we are who we are, and we have our shadows, and
Oh,
sometimes our
sure.
yes,
Sure.
but my husband is awesome.
Oh gosh, Orion, that really says volumes about I can tell you have a good marriage because it's such a respectful thing to say about your husband.
Well, I kind of didn't respect him by like mocking him a little bit, which I do sometimes. Like he'll say something I don't like, and I'll say it like, and you said, I'll make it, but it's just like, it's the next step in my evolution as a surrendered wife. So, what is the word surrendered means to you? What it is? What is it to be a surrendered wife?
Well, I think of I mean, one example is like let's say you're stuck in traffic and you wish the traffic would move, but it won't. But you could use that time to you could talk on the phone, you could listen to a podcast or an audiobook, and you could be grateful that you had that time in the car, even though you were stuck in traffic to begin with.
Mhm.
So for me, surrendering is more about just focusing on making myself happy. Like, how am I going to be responsible to delight Laura today? Do all the things that make me smile and laugh and dance and sing. And then that in turn really improves the intimacy because that's who my husband fell in love with, was that girl of fun and light that was having a great time regardless of some of the circumstances that could come up. So it's really, I think people hear it and they think that it means being obedient, yeah, or submissive, or or subservient, like he's the boss. And I just didn't like that word either at first, but now I love it because whenever I'm tempted, whenever I feel the fear come up that is behind my urge to control, it's just my mantra. I'll just say, like, surrender, surrender, surrender. And that just reminds me to stay with myself, honor my own desires, make myself happy, and that I have a good man, just like you do, right? When we were smart when we got married, we wouldn't have married idiots. We married good men.
Oh, I married an idiot before, so
Oh,
yeah.
okay, 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 but not the one you're married to now. It sounds like.
No, no, no. Thank God, no.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So that's surrendering. It's really just. It's kind of almost um, really focusing, bringing the focus back to ourselves and honoring ourselves, making ourselves happy, and letting our husbands really shine in the ways
Yeah.
that we did when we first fell in love with them.
Yeah, because people will show up if you they will show up if you allow them. If you hold a certain identity and you keep them in a box, that they will play into the identity that you are creating for them, and this identity is formed from the stories you have in your mind about this person who's actually infinite potential, and he shows up as just one thing according to your own story. So when you change your story and you learn skills like the skills that you shared, then you have a much better relationship, and they show up differently. They light up, like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I talk about this, what I think of this as being the spouse fulfilling prophecy, right? We all have a spouse fulfilling prophecy. Sometimes it's unwitting, it's not a great one. And other times I can be intentional. For example, I used to get mad. Well, I would tell my husband that he should try to make more money. He needs to get a raise. He should get a better job. And what he heard was, "You don't make enough money," and that's accurate. I'm not proud to say it. And so we got to the point where he wasn't making any money. He quit his job, and I was furious. I was so resentful that he would do that. And I was the only breadwinner at our house, and I couldn't understand how he could just leave it to me. And so I just continued down that destructive path of saying, basically, you don't make enough money, you don't make any money. And that was the exact experience I was having. So then I learned from Lee Miltier that I could change it up. And so I came up with a new spouse fulfilling prophecy. And it was, you've always been a good provider. And that kind of it felt like a stretch because I thought he's not really a good provider right now, but he had been in the past when I first met him. So I started saying that, and I started telling it to myself, and then I would find a reason to say it to him too. I would kind of gather evidence. And then I also, just for fun, I thought I'm also going to just call him Mr. Moneybags because I thought that, just that would be fun too if he was Mr. Moneybags. This is the experience I want to be having. But it was hard because I thought there's not that much evidence, but I'd be like, oh yeah, you've always had a good job. You've always been a good provider. I felt like I could find some evidence from that from the past. Well, around the time I started saying that, my husband started his own company. He never had done that before. And he was very successful with it. And he made more money than he had ever made at any of his jobs. And so he would get a big check, and I would go, "Oh, Mr. Moneybags got a big check in the mail." And I ended up experiencing the spouse fulfilling prophecy that I focused on. So my experience is what I focus on increases, and I can I have some say over that. I can choose it wisely, or I can, you know, choose it unwisely.
Yeah. In Judaism, they say, I'll say it in Hebrew, Aisha I ezer kenegdo. And the loose translation is the woman is a help against him, which means the woman can be a help or she can like completely destroy him, be against him. So the way we show up for our partners is so important because we can build them up or we can destroy them. We can build up the marriage or we can destroy it, and we have so much power. And when we're in victimhood and we give away our power, the 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 household collapses.
Yeah, it's so true. And my parents are divorced, and so I think I was following a failed recipe, and I was about to get
Oh
the
man, let
same.
me tell you about my childhood.
Right, right.
Oh gosh.
So, but we see this being that the wife tearing down the husband. If that's the modeling you had, it doesn't seem like it's not something you shouldn't do, right? That this is
Mhm.
what you have demonstrated. So many of us, right, are from broken homes now, and so where are we supposed to learn?
Yeah, I'm from broken home. So for me, the example was the opposite. For me, my mom was so submissive, and my father was very aggressive and n- didn't treat any of us well. So so I learned like this was what I thought was a relationship. I didn't have any model for good relationship, and it's not an excuse. Like whatever you've been in your childhood is a catalyst to some events in your life, but it shouldn't be an excuse for your future because you're a grown person and you can learn skills and you can get a coach from for like a Laura Doyle coach, and you can read books and you can improve yourself. You're always in control. You got to take ownership within your relationship and also prior to them.
It is so exciting. That's what I love about being an empowered wife, right? That's my latest book, and the name of my podcast is.
Okay, yes, yes. Let's talk about empowered wife. What is that all about?
Well, I feel like you just described her, right, as somebody
You
who,
did?
yeah,
Oh.
kind of did, because it's once
Mhm.
I had the skills to speak for myself, to honor myself, like to express those desires, um, to be respectful, to be vulnerable, to be grateful, all these virtues, right? That we think about cultivating, but I didn't really know how to do that. But having the specific words and instructions, it did become so empowering because remember the power that you felt when you first fell in love with your man, right? Like you felt desired, you knew he would go to the ends of the earth for you. It's like it's a heady feeling, right? It's a kind of an intoxicating
Yeah, it's like
feeling.
feeling drunk.
It's like
It's
feeling
so
drunk,
nice.
right? And
Ah,
you've got and
I
you have all
love
this
it.
power. And all of that is comes back for me, when I learned how to express myself, how to use all these cheap phrases and these skills, these actions that I learned from these happy wives, that they already knew. Like this existed long before I was born, and uh, this ancient wisdom. It's referenced in all kinds of ancient religious books,
Mhm.
um, but I don't think there's. For me, I heard about them growing up, but I didn't have the specific examples of how to implement. So that's been a game changer in having me feel like the supermodel that at my house, right? Like my husband, he does so much for me now, and I do feel so desired. He makes bedroom eyes, and he just comes and sits right. I'll be working on my laptop, and he just has to come and sit right next to me now, whereas before I couldn't get him to come and like sit next to me or talk to me.
That's a major shift. Major shift. And you say that when you changed, he changed.
Absolutely. I mean, in some ways, you could say maybe he just went back to being who the man he was before I started
Mhm.
squelching him and um, yeah, kind of squandering that, I suppose. But I also think I was able to single-handedly change the culture in our home, like with gratitude, for
Mm.
example. So one of the skills is gratitude, and one part of the gratitude skill is coming up with 3 gratitudes a day for your husband and sharing those with him. So when I started doing that, like he started thanking me for things too. So instead of taking each other for granted, or like what I used to do was like, okay, you clean the kitchen, that's nice, but what about wiping off the counters, right? Like just focusing on the
Yeah.
not enough. So now we have this incredible culture of like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. No, thank you so much for all the things you do. And that just contributes to such a sense of abundance and well-being. I remember one
Mm.
of my students really resisted this idea, Isabella. And she's like, I'm not going to thank him because, first of all, I do everything. And second of all, no one's thanking me. And like, I can't even think of 3 things that he does. But she decided she was going to do it every day for a week. So the first day, she just thanked him for working hard to support the family, even though she's like, I work too. But she just, but it's still a
Mm.
contribution. And then she thanked him for watching the baby while she went to exercising. And I forget what the third thing. Oh, I think he took care of the car. And so she thanked him for that. And she was shocked because this next day they were sitting down to dinner. And he goes, "You really taught me that we need to appreciate each other more. So I want to thank you for
Oh,
making
how
dinner." I
lovely.
know, she just like almost fell out of her chair. Like, I can't believe
Wow.
this is the culture at my house now. But she did that by going first, by taking the high
Mhm.
road and deciding to express her gratitude. It can be hard to get yourself there at first, but the benefits of it are pretty incredible.
How about receiving a gift you don't want? For example, my husband likes to help me by backing up my phone, and then I end up not being able to use it the next day. So he's got a really nice intention, but then like I'm like, oh, without my phone, what am I gonna do? So but I know that the gift is coming from a nice place, or he'll give me something that I don't really like. How do you react to that?
I love this question, right? Because we've all been there. Getting like, I remember one student, she's like, "My husband got me a Swiss Army knife for my birthday. Like, what? Like, what is he thinking? This is the least romantic present, right?" And so I feel like there's so receptivity. One of the things I learned from those wise women, that is the essence of femininity. So to be more feminine, which is what men are fundamentally attracted, we are built to receive. Yeah, physically, and it's a metaphor. And I just think about all the things like receiving, like we leave the restaurant and it's raining, and my husband goes to get the car, gives me his jacket because I'm cold, and I wasn't very good at this, right? My husband would say, we'd wake up in the morning, he'd go, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and I was like, "No, don't look at me, like my hair is messy," and I couldn't receive his compliments, or he would get me flowers, and I would say, "Oh, these are just too expensive and they die anyway." Like I would talk him out of, and he couldn't make me happy, right? Which we know is imperative, right? It's the most important thing for men. So me not being a good receiver really cost us in the area of intimacy. And there was nothing my husband could do about it because I was the one who was putting up the hand, like, no, I won't receive. So when I think about his gifts now, of course, not every gift is fantastic or like exactly what I would have gotten myself had I just gotten in the car and gone to get it myself or ordered it online myself, right? But for that, I can just go online and order things myself. But it was a reflection of him thinking about me, him wanting to make me happy, wanting to make me smile, wanting to make my life easier. So when I think about your husband updating your phone, right? And you already are so good about this, Orion. You're like, I know it's coming from a good place. He's wanting to help me, but then so frustrating. I couldn't use my phone the next day, and that was maddening, right? So for me,
Like, surprise, no phone,
surprise,
and backed it up for you.
I messed it up for you.
Thanks,
And
babe.
so for me,
Oh.
there could be further desire. Like I would love to be able to use my phone today or something like that. But also just, and you did it already so naturally. So I think this might be a strength of yours, but being able to receive like, oh,
Not a strength of mine. Awareness, not a strength.
this is
Mm-mm.
something you're being intentional about.
How can I get him to get me more gifts? Like, I really want him to buy me things, not because I cannot buy them, but I want him to get me more
Sure. You want to feel adored.
like physical stuff.
That's
And
your birthright as a woman. So
like he does, he gives me what he thinks I should have, but like I'm like, just give me a random jewelry every once in a decade. I want that. And he will refuse to do it because I think I know why. He doesn't want to fail at choosing the wrong thing. He said, I can give you a gift card. I'm like, I don't need a gift card. I can go and get it.
Wow, I love this example because I relate to you so much, Orion. Because I think with my husband, because I'm controlling too, I think he saw me as kind of like unpleasable. Like whatever he got, it wasn't going to be right. And so for me, it's been an experience of letting him broaden my horizons, letting him get me something that is not exactly what I would have chosen for myself, but finding what I love about it. It's kind of like what you do with a friend, right? Like a friend gets you a present, you don't go, "Oh my God, why did you get me this?" But you would say like, "Oh, I love the color," or whatever, right? And so then it comes up like, well, let's say he buys you jewelry and you think it's ugly. Like what then what are you gonna do? Right? Like you won't even want to wear it. And I think of this one student who her husband got her he got her a purse and it was a beautiful purse and she loved the purse, but it wasn't big enough for her to put all her stuff in, right? So she said, "Oh, thank you. It's so beautiful," but she returned it. And then later on, she kind of realized, like, "Oh, I guess I didn't really receive that very well." And she apologized. She goes, "I apologize that I returned the beautiful purse you got me because I did love it." And he goes, "Oh, thank God." And she's like, "Well, what?" And he goes, "I just thought, how am I ever going to make her happy if she said she loved it, but then she returned it?" I was like, I didn't know what to do. So
I
then
have
the
a
next
lot to
thing,
learn.
the, the next thing he got her was a sweater. And she was like, "Ah, this is not my color, you know?"
That's the ugliest sweater ever. Beautiful, baby. This is amazing.
Well, here's what happened with her sweater though. So she kind of had learned her lesson and she didn't return it, but she thought, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna like put it in my drawer and we'll see. But she took it out and she put it on one day because she just thought, let me just kind of receive his present. So she put it on and she got so many compliments and she realized like,
Really?
yeah, and she realized like, you know what? I think I do like this sweater. It grew on her. Anyway, it became her favorite sweater. So I mean, we don't always, the part of the gift of being with other people is they see things about us that we don't see about ourselves. So if you're going to be receptive, it's also partly about being open to what your husband sees about you, where he sees a possibility to delight you that might not be so obvious to me.
Yeah. My little one always tells me when he doesn't like a gift I get him. And I try to teach him about how to receive gifts and how important it is. But how can I teach him if I don't do it myself, right? It's like, do what I say, not what I do.
I love your accountability. You're so cute. You are so open. Like I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
you're an ideal student of the intimacy skills. I feel like because are, you've tried on these things, first of all, and you're saying like, oh, I'd like to grow in this area and I'd like to grow in that area. Anyway, I just admire it so much. I get excited
Oh,
actually.
thank you. You know what I admire about you? Everything. I every time I listen to your podcast interview on Reclamation Radio, and that was amazing. And I also listened to an episode on your podcast, The Empowered Wife, and just the way you speak about people and you speak to people. I was like, wow, she's a person I really would love to talk to. She's so kind, so empathetic, so down to earth with all her success. And you have mega success in your field. And you're still such a beautiful person and easy to connect with and sweet and kind. It's much easier to learn from people like yourself, and it's rare because some people when they get some sort of status and recognition, they they behave differently, and you're very much in your lane, in your path, and honest with your audiences and walking your talk, and that is really beautiful.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful
And your smile
compliment.
is gorgeous
Oh,
too.
thank you. Thank you. Oh, so sweet. That makes my day to hear that.
Yay. So when are we gonna receive the book, surrendered female leader.
Oh gosh, that's a good. It's funny. The CEO of Laura Doyle Connect and we talk all the time about how we have to practice the skills in business just like we do in our relationships, and it's actually been so eye-opening and empowering in business. I think that's a big part of our success with now serving thousands of women all over the world in the coaching is expressing our desires instead of complaining, and being respectful to our colleagues and to the uh, you know employees, contractors, and team members, everybody. And so it definitely translates. Is really It's funny because I think I know I just started doing this because I just wanted to change my husband. I wanted him to be better, and the joke was on me. It made me a better Laura, and that journey continues. And it certainly, being on the mission to end world divorce provides lots of opportunities for me to continue to hone my skills, my intimacy skills, because, and I actually do feel I just am so grateful, and so in love with my team, and they mirror that right back to me. And I think it is because we feel intimate and connected because everyone's so skilled on that team. All the coaches have been trained in the intimacy skills at the highest level. And there's actually, one of my favorite things that I get to do is when we go to the coach symposium once a year, all the coaches get together from all over the world. And it's just the biggest love fest of women.
Oh, how beautiful.
It's just, there's nothing quite like it. So I look forward to it every year.
That's amazing. Yeah, and when I heard that podcast, you interviewed a woman who used the intimacy skills to heal her relationship with her teenage daughter. So that was, that was mind blowing. So we need two more books.
Add them to my list. Yeah, yeah. There are so many valuable applications of the intimacy skills. That's her story about healing her relationship with her teen daughter. Just it made me cry. It was so moving. What mother doesn't want that, right? To feel close to a teenage daughter, and the teenagers have a reputation, right, to being difficult or rebellious.
Yes, and you know what? And I've been thinking about it a lot because my little one's got a big personality. He can be really big sometimes. And I was like, wow, if you're like locking the door on me now when you're 4, what will happen when you're like 16? Oh my goodness. Um, you know. And he's not like he's mostly like a very charming little boy. He's got his mom's um anger sometimes. Uh but we're very close. We're like he's like mini me. Um and I had to reframe that. And because your partner has infinite possibilities and so does your child. So I'm going to make the reframe that we're going to be so close together when he's a teenager and is always going to be like close to me. We're always going to be in a loving relationship. And this is what I want to manifest. And this is what I want to focus on. Not to say that I'm sure, life throws a lot of things in your way, but I'm going to hold this as my reality regardless of how teenagers act, right?
I just can't think of anything more important or more valuable to focus on. I mean, I just love that. And I feel like your son is so lucky that you would expect the best from him. Because people tend to live up to our expectations. So what a good mom. What a good mom you
No,
are.
thanks.
Yeah.
I am a good mom. Sometimes I don't, but I do my best.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's such a big, important job. And I hear you being so thoughtful about the future that you want to create, focusing on what you want to experience instead of what you don't
Yeah.
want.
I spend a lot of my life focusing on what I don't want and manifesting that, and also focusing on what I do want and manifesting that. So I rather manifest on what I want when I'm conscious about it and focused on it and remind myself to get back in my body and ground and forget about everything else, and move through the emotions, and move my body and feel good about myself, um, and keep my vibration higher so I can be better person, better mom, better leader, better everything.
Yeah, I admire that so much. That's what for me. That's what it's all about too. Every day, just wanting to be my best self, and therefore have my best marriage and my best other relationships, and be the best leader. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for having the skills that have helped me get there. Like it's, I always wanted to do these things, to practice these things, to be this way, but I didn't know how to get there, and it was just so magical that I was able to get this wisdom from these women to help put the steps in place to get to that outcome. And I just hear you being the same way. Like you're like, I'm studying from people that have what I want, and I'm
Exactly.
this
The
is
shortcut.
the shortcuts. Yeah, and but this is what I'm focused on. And anyway, so I just enjoy getting to be with somebody who's got the same priorities, because these that is what I think is important. Marriage is important. Having a great relationship is so important. I can't think of anything that's more important.
No, actually not. A lot of people, they get to the fame and fortune and they don't feel anything. They get the money, the success, the yacht, the girl, the boy, whatever it is, and they don't, it's like a hiccup, and then they're on to the next thing. I think relationship and love and connection is the most important thing. That's first and foremost. And yes, of course, money, success, all that, it's all great. It improves everything. It's not what we really are here for.
No, you just made me think of Jennifer Lopez for some reason. Like one of the most beautiful women in the world, very successful singer, actress, like so much money, and she's been divorced a few times already, and now her relationship with Ben Affleck seems to be in trouble, and I'm heartbroken for her.
She needs you to coach her.
I think it's not too late to save that marriage. I don't think it's too late to save Bennifer, but it's like you say, this is without that. If she is not going to succeed, and we know she cares deeply about having a happy marriage because she's tried again and again, and so my heart breaks for her that
Let's
yeah,
send
she's
some love and light her way in her
yeah,
relationship.
absolutely, and call
Yes.
me J-Lo. Yeah,
Yeah, and,
okay,
and
yeah.
yeah, exactly. What are your three top tips to live in a stellar life?
Mm. Well, the first one is definitely to make a list of your desires. This is something I like to do almost every day. I think about what it is I would love, and then I think about how to express that. So I'm at least writing it down, kind of owning it that way. But sometimes I also like to tell someone else, these are things that I would love. Doesn't mean they need to provide them for me. It's just me honoring myself. That's a huge one. The second one is to make my gratitude lists every day, at least three things. I do three things for my husband. I also just love to do my gratitude for my life, where I live, and that I have this wonderful husband. Um, to what is it? I think Goethe said that to be grateful is to live heaven, to live in heaven, I think he said. So that's the second one. So desires, gratitude, and then I guess I would say that the third one is I'll say it's about making my list. I have a list of 20 things that I do to make myself happy, things that just give me joy, frivolous fun. And I'm not talking about 30 minutes of cardio and, five fruits and vegetables a day, unless that feels really fun to you, I guess. But it's just for things that make me smile and laugh, or just feel really good. And I like to give myself at least three a day, sometimes many more, so that I'm always radiating joy and happiness, because that feels good.
Yes, I love it. Beautiful and very practical too. Where can people find you, get your books, all that good stuff?
I have something special. I have a little surprise for the listeners because I really want everyone to have I want every woman to have her birthright of feeling desired and taken care of and special. And so I put together a little package. It's got the Adored Wife Roadmap in it, and it's got some audio recordings, exclusive audio recordings. I put it at lauradoyle.org/stellar
Oh, how
for this podcast, for just for
phenomenal.
the listeners of this podcast. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
you can go and get that, download it for free. Everything's for
I'm
free.
gonna go download it right
Um,
now.
yeah, sounds good.
Amazing. Laura, this was so fun. It was such a pleasure getting to know you, learning from you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a light. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Um, It was awesome. Thank you a lot. And thank you listeners. Remember to make a list of your desires. What would I love and how can I express it? Be grateful for at least 3 things every day. Make a list of 20 things that make you happy and give yourself the permission to do at least 3 every day and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.